What is up, everybody? It's BMax Bracketology, and I am back continuing the series of predicting every single conference tournament winner in college basketball. And as you can see by the title of this video, I'll be doing the Sun Belt, the SBC, the Fun Belt, whatever you want to call it. And let's just get right into the bracket. And here it is. I think we got to talk about just how crazy this bracket is. If Southern Miss, Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, or Louisiana Monroe want to win the conference tournament, they are going to have to win, 7 games. They're going to have to win 7 games in 7 days. That is a week full of just straight basketball, and I don't want to spoil you guys, but I don't think that's going to happen. But maybe down the line we'll see that. I like this style of bracket. It rewards the teams that did well in the regular season, which in small conferences I think should be valued more. The team won the regular season. They were the best team in the conference. Make them have to play less games to win the championship. They earned it because they're not going to get an at-large bid, most likely, unless it's from a better conference. But you could have seen this last year. But I like what they're doing here. I don't understand why everyone's hating on it. You might sit here and be like, oh, well, that just gives the underdog a very bad opportunity. But if we're keeping it real, they're not going to win the tournament anyway. So, let's just get started with the games. I'll quit talking about the bracket. So we got Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina. I think these two teams are, they're not great. I do think Coastal Carolina, though, has, they have one of the better players in the conference since conference play, and that's Jordan Battle. He went off the meeting that they played the first time. I really do like this team over Southern Miss. So Southern Miss has been dealing with some stuff with Andre Curbelo not coming back for the rest of the season. Give him the Chanticleers to move on in this one. And then in the 11 versus 14 matchup, we got Louisiana and Louisiana Monroe. Louisiana Monroe is just not a very good team, and Louisiana, they've been kind of disappointing this year. They've been one of the better teams as of recent, but this year, just not really that great. But Louisiana Monroe is just bad. They don't do anything better than Louisiana. I think Louisiana is just the better overall team. Give me the Raging Cajuns. So then we got the 9 seed Georgia Southern taking on the 13 seed Coastal Carolina. Georgia Southern is just the better team. I don't really have a lot of faith in Coastal Carolina. They are one of the worst defensive teams in the country. They force the least amount of steals and they force the least amount of blocks, which is just crazy to think about. And that's a team that I am not going to be heavy on, so give me Georgia Southern. And then the other matchup, we got the 10 seed Old Dominion versus the 11 seed Louisiana. To be honest with you, this game is just they're just not very good teams. Two very not good teams playing each other. You kind of just have to pin out some interesting stuff, and I think Louisiana is going to ride the momentum from winning the game against their rivals, Louisiana Monroe, and I'm going to take them to move on. So give me the Raging Cajuns. And then in the 8-9 matchup, we have Georgia State versus the 9 seed Georgia Southern. These two teams are rivals, so this is going to be a gritty game. The winner is going to play Marshall. I think that Georgia State, I don't know. I don't think they rebound the ball very well compared to Georgia Southern. And, once again, these teams are very, very similar. They're really similar to the seed lines, which is one thing that you will notice down the road when I'm picking these picks is that these teams are all super, super similar. This conference is very hard to predict. But in this one, I'm going to take Georgia Southern. Once again, ride the momentum, I guess, from the game before. Give me the Eagles. Gotta. And then in the 7 versus 11 matchup, we got Texas State versus Louisiana. I'm going to save us some time. Texas State is the better team. They got better players. It's that simple. They're just the better team. Give me Texas State. And then we got Marshall and Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, this is their third game in 3 days. They don't do anything better than Marshall. Marshall's got better players. Give me Marshall. It's that simple. And then in the 6 versus 7 matchup, this is when the tiers start to flip. This is when you get into the contentions. The 1 through 7 teams, I can see all of them winning. This is when it actually gets into the good part of the bracket. So App State and Texas State, I'll tell you one thing. App State has lost 4 out of their last 5. They're not hot coming into this tournament. Texas State just got done beating the 2 seed, James Madison. I think Texas State is the way better offensive team, but App State is the way better defensive team. So you kind of have to decide what's gonna fold, the bad or the good offense or the good defense. And I think defense travels more, but not in this case. Give me Texas State. Tylen Pope. If you haven't watched Tylen Pope, he is a dog. He can do anything on the court. He shoots the ball well from everywhere, and he's a really good mid-range shooter, which is something that I really like to see out of players, being able to hit that mid-range jump shot. And I'm going to roll with the Bobcats to win. Give me Texas State. So then we got the 4-seed Arkansas State versus the 5-seed Marshall. And I'll tell you one thing about Arkansas State is that they are statistically the best team in this conference. Their efficiencies are great. They do everything really, really well. And then Marshall, they do everything really, really well too, but just not as high of a level. And you might be thinking to yourself, Brady, obviously pick Arkansas State. But here's one thing that Arkansas State does. I lied. They don't do everything well. Arkansas State, I think they depend on the 3-ball a little too much. And Pinion is a great player. He is a really good player. I think they should use him more, honestly. I think he's a really good shooter, and I think he could get more looks, more touches. But Marshall, I'll tell you one thing about Marshall. I really like this Thunder and Herd team. They got 5 guys that all their starters are averaging in double digits. The 2 guys that come off the bench, they're one of the guys is Ricks. He is a very good shot blocker. And then the other guy, forgot his name, but he likes to force steals. So the guys that come off the bench are the kind of defensive push that they don't have to give these other guys, they don't take away their looks offensively, but they play hard on the defensive end, which is what I really like to see in this conference. And once again, I think Marshall rides that momentum from yesterday that they just won. And I know that a lot of people are high on the Red Wolves. I am too, but I am taking Marshall. This is the first real big upset pick that I think I've had so far. Give me the Thundering Herd. Let's go. Then we got the 3-seed Troy versus the 7-seed Texas State. Texas State, I'll tell you, their offense is very, very good. These two teams split their season series against each other. I believe both of them won on the road, which is very interesting. But Troy's defense is significantly better. Texas State's offense is a little bit better. Both these teams love to crash the offensive glass. Both teams give themselves second opportunities. But Troy is a decently good defensive rebounding team. So I think they limit Texas State's opportunities on the offensive end. I think their efficiencies are better. I want to see Texas State make a run because their offense is really good, led by Pope and Morgan. But I just don't think that this team can defensively go down the stretch and get a stop. I'll tell you one thing. Their guards do not take care of the ball very well. They do make a lot of plays, but they do not take care of the ball very well. And if you don't know about Troy, they got a guy by the name of Tatum Connerway, who forces the most steals in the conference. I believe one of the best in the country. This dude is flat out a great defender. He's gonna make the Bobcats guards very uncomfortable. Whoever has to go up against him, and I'm gonna roll with the Trojans here. So now we got our first semifinal matchup between South Alabama and Marshall. And I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting about South Alabama is they give up the most amount of three-point looks in the country. About a 55% three-point attempt rate against, which is crazy. Their defensive philosophy is like, yeah, shoot it. Like, I dare you. Which is interesting when you want to play good teams who can shoot the ball decently well. Marshall, I'm going to continue talking about South Alabama. Something else that's different or interesting about South Alabama is they got swept by the 14th seed Louisiana Monroe, which is just crazy. It just shows how deep this conference is. But, Marshall, I'm going to continue to talk about Marshall. I know. I already told you they got 5 guys that average 10 points. But Marshall has 2 guys who shoot the ball really, really, really well. It's Spear and Dawson. They shoot the ball really, really well. Some days they don't shoot the ball well. Some days they do, but majority they do shoot the ball pretty well. And if you're gonna let those 2 guys shoot on you, I am not gonna be a fan of you. I'm gonna roll with Marshall. The 5 seed is going to the championship game. Roll Herd, baby. So then we got the 2 seed James Madison taking on the 3 seed Troy. James Madison hasn't played yet. This is their first game of the tournament, which is crazy. Talk about Marshall. They've already played 3 games, but, and then Troy, they beat a good Texas State. I have them beating a good Texas State team. I'll tell you another thing about Troy is that I think they rely on the 3-ball too much too, which I do not like teams that rely on the 3-ball. Troy, South Alabama, and Arkansas State all rely on the three-point ball. One bad night and you're gone. It's that simple. You're gone. Your season's over. One bad shooting night and your season's over. So I don't love leaning on teams like that. James Madison has some really good players in, oh my gosh, what's their names? Freeman and, sorry guys, jeez, Freeman and Lindsey. Lindsey, I think they should use him more, but Freeman's such a quick guy with his dribble that he can create shots. Lindsey is a great 3-point shooter. So, and then Hutchins Everett is a really good inside threat. I think that those 3 guys end up leading James Madison over Troy here. I think Troy oh my gosh, I can't speak. They like teams to turn the ball over. They like forcing turnovers, which I said with Conaway. He's the guy who wants to create turnovers. But I'll tell you, James Madison doesn't really turn the ball over. And I'll tell you one thing is that James Madison's 3-point attempt rate over 3-point percentage is pretty good. So I'm going to roll with the Dukes here. Preston Spaldron's done an excellent job since getting James Madison's job. He was the previous coach at Morehead State, so he has tournament experience. He knows what he's doing, so I'm going to go with the Dukes. And then we got the matchup, the championship game, the 5-seed Marshall and the 2-seed James Madison. I'll tell you one thing about these two teams is that they are, once again, very, very similar. They all do things pretty well. They all do things genuinely well. And, I do kind of look into the fact that Marshall, this would be their 4th game in 4 days, and this would be James Madison's 2nd game in 2 days. And Marshall is not real deep, but I already told you that those 2 guys that come off the bench really, really are effective. And I'll tell you, Marshall, they got a guy in the name of Obina Anuchili Killen. Leads the conference in blocks by a landslide. He does. He's a really good shot blocker. And I'll tell you another thing. Nate Martin, the best offensive rebounder in this conference. Their big men are solid. They're real good. And their guards, Mingo, he's great at creating offense for Spear and Dawson, who like to shoot on the outside. I really like this Marshall team. I think everybody's kind of counting them out. I think everyone's kind of sleeping on them a little bit. So that's why I'm taking the Marshall Thundering Herd to win the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. I remember the last time Marshall won the Sun Belt that they ended up beating Wichita State in March Madness. So that would be very exciting to see them be back in the NCAA tournament. They're led by Corny. Oh my gosh, I think it's Corny Johnson. Sorry if I butchered that name. I'm going to look it up real quick. But he was one of the best players at Marshall all time. So it's his first year coaching the team, but he does it for the university. That's what he's for. He's a really good coach. He was the associate head coach last year. He's been under the staff for a while. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, Corey Jackson. He was under Dan D'Antoni for a while. He knows what he's doing. I think everybody is kind of sleeping on them. Like I said earlier, everyone's like they didn't get a share of the conference regular season buys. I forgot to tell you guys that the 1 seed South Alabama, 2 seed James Madison, 3 seed Troy, and 4 seed Arkansas State all tied in the regular season. And Marshall, I think they're coming out with a little, hey man, I think we're the best team in this conference. And I think they have that mentality coming in. I'm rolling with Marshall. So thank you guys for watching this video. This is my first kind of upset pick. I feel pretty good about it. But make sure you guys hit that like button and the subscribe button so you get notifications on every time I post. I'm going to continue to bust out these conference tournament predictions. I got nothing else for you guys today. BMAX Bracketology out. God bless everyone.